You so much, everybody, for joining us today for our penultimate Global Cafe of the year. We are delighted today to be inviting Hannah, who's going to be representing the team from Absa Bank in South Africa, who, as many of you know, were the winners of this year's professional category of the Service Design Network Award. Congratulations again, Hannah, for that. But before we get going, just I'll give you a little sense of how the timing is going to go. We have an hour together. Shortly, Birgit's going to give us an update on what's been happening with the Service Design Network, so you know what things are going on and what your membership is helping us achieve on your behalf. We will then jump right into Hannah, and Hannah will have about 25 minutes to share the Absa ChatWallet story with you. After that, we're going to open up to you to comment, to make observations, to ask questions, to chat with each other. We have about 25 minutes for that, and then we can wrap it up. During Hannah's talk, feel free to make comments and add questions in the chat. I will be taking a look at those, and can voice them on your behalf. Of course, you're welcome also to come on the mic and voice them yourselves. But if you like, feel free to pop them in the chat, and I can get the ball rolling once Hannah has shared her story. So so let's kick it off with Birgit. Birgit, give us an update on what's happening on the network these days.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. Hello, everybody. Yeah, my name is Birgit Marger. I'm co-founder and president of the Global Service Design Network. And just to remind you, the mission of the Global Service Design Network is to push the boundaries of service design. We are a volunteer-driven nonprofit organization, and our passion is really to create awareness for service design and the value it brings to the public, to the private, and also to the civic sector. So that's what we've been working on, me personally, now for 20 years, and I still love it. Why do I love it? Because of people like you. And I can say this wholeheartedly because in the first week of October, I got my shower of motivation in Helsinki. It's the Global Conference Week, and I don't know who of you was in Helsinki. Yeah, Sonja was there, Hannah was there, Brian was there. Yes, Alessandro was there. Okay, I hope that many of you had the chance to join the conference. The conference is always organized by the local chapter, and the Finnish chapter was just amazing, so motivated, so dedicated, so passionate. And I think we had great days in Helsinki. And as I said, for me, it's always like the motivational shower that carries me for months and months through, sometimes also a bit grayness, because in a nonprofit organization, not everything is always fun, but most things are. So that was one big thing. And in Helsinki, we announced that we will be going to Dallas, Texas, next year, autumn, with our 18th global conference. So Thomas is here. Thomas is representing the Chicago chapter, and the US chapters have joined forces to organize a US event that will be held in Dallas. The exact date and venue will be hopefully announced very soon, and put it then into your schedule. Don't miss out. The conference is really, it's an amazing opportunity to meet other members and to get really great insights and inspiration. So another thing that is happening in April next year, the Next Gen conference, the 4th edition of the Next Gen conference will take place. Some of you might know that we have built a young talent board. We have invited a group of younger people, young professionals to bring their voice to the Service Design Network. Sahar, who is here in the room, was one of the co-founders, and they are organizing this amazing global virtual event in a hybrid format. So also for that, please keep your eyes open. I hope that you are all signed into the Insider, our newsletter. You have to actively click that you want to get it, otherwise you won't get it. And if you don't get it, you will miss out on many of the news and activities that are relevant for you. So one or two things, more things that I would like to share. The Service Design Network has joined the World Design Organization a couple of weeks ago. I think it's an important step to bring our voice, the voice of service design, into that organization, who in their mission statement still say that they are representing the world of industrial design. Those are just words. When you talk to the people, you know that they have a very broad view of industrial design and that they know that we are talking about product service systems. But still, I think it's really important to create awareness and to give a voice to service design in this huge World Design Organization that is organizing the World Design Capital, the World Design Conference, and many other interesting activities where I hope we can represent the service design community in the future. We have also joined forces with the German Design Council by creating mutual memberships. Also here, we want to stretch the boundaries of service design and make sure that our voice is being heard. So in case any of you have any design organizations where you feel the Service Design Network should belong, just let me know. I'm happy to join forces with you to make sure that we are seen, heard, and that we have impact. We have also joined the BEDA, that is the European Design Organization. I hope that there we will find ways to also get more funding for service design related activities, specifically, of course, research activities. So those were some of the things that I've been playing around with lately. Well, I hope that it will help us to continue the amazing growth of our community and to raise the impact that we are having. Brian, did I forget something? I certainly did.
No, I think you covered quite a bit there. I think one of the strategies, I think obviously Birgit's message to us is saying, is that we're looking to reach outside of our community, our network, into a broader design network. Service design is such an integrative practice that, you know, the relationships that we build with our colleagues in other professions become increasingly important as we work on these very, very complex systems that require design skills way beyond service design. So I think our relationships with these other organizations are going to be significantly important in the years ahead. And hopefully we can find great ways to partner with them and learn from them. So great. Well, I think it's time for the main act, the folks from Absa. And I know that there's a lot of folks from Absa in the room, which is great. Thank you guys for joining us. You know, Birgit and I were both on the jury this year for the Service Design Awards, and you know, it was unanimous in our understanding of the Absa project that the work you did for many, many reasons. And one of, I think, you know, financial services has always been an area of significant, I think, support for service design and the growth of service design, and certainly the work that you've done at Absa Bank is a tribute to that and super representative of that. So we're delighted to have you guys here today to tell the story of Absa ChatWallet. Hannah, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I just want to confirm you can hear me, you can see the presentation.
Yes,
wonderful. Okay, so good afternoon to the Service Design Network. It's great to be here. As mentioned, my name is Hannah Gould. I am a product design, I'm a design director, at Absa Bank in South Africa. I lead product design and service design teams in Absa's online banking space, and most recently, Absa ChatWallet. So a little bit about Absa, for those who don't know. Absa is one of the big 5 banks in South Africa. We offer a range of products and services from personal and business banking through to insurance, lending, corporate and investment banking. Absa has a huge footprint across the African continent. We have a presence in 12 countries, making us a truly Pan-African bank. Across the continent, we've got 10 million customers and 35,000 colleagues. And today, like it's been mentioned, I'm joined online by some of those awesome colleagues from the everyday banking, digital and design team. So thanks team for the support. It's really nice to see some familiar faces. Oh, this is not okay. So just over a month ago, we returned from the beautiful Helsinki, where we attended the Service Design Conference. As you can see, a very happy picture here, a lot of smiling faces. So in Helsinki, Absa ChatWallet was named winner in the professional commercial category for the 2024 Service Design Awards. We are very proud of ourselves and proud of this achievement. And today I'm here to tell you about this journey and how we landed ChatWallet in the market. So we'll touch a little bit on the problem and then mainly on the solution, the execution, and then end off with the impact. Like Brian said, please note down any questions along the way. It'll be nice to have a bit of a chat afterwards. Right, so let's get into it. So I'm sure we can all agree that financial inclusion is a wicked problem that we face across the globe in many countries. And it was actually really interesting at the conference. I connected with a couple of other designers from Brazil and Mexico, and they face very similar challenges in their home countries. And it got me thinking. And I realized that the reason that we share such similar problems in the financial inclusion space is that it sits right at the core of 4 global challenges, which is poverty, inequality, education, and economic environment. So if we look at the African continent, 350 million people are still excluded from formal banking. Now, I want you to think for a moment about the last transaction that you made. Perhaps you paid your rent, you bought some groceries online, you paid a friend or family. Now imagine a world where you couldn't do that from the convenience of your mobile phone, a bank card, or a laptop. Now for me, the last transaction I made was a contribution to a present for a friend who lives in another city. To think about not being able to do that, I can't even imagine that. So that's how 350 million people live every day. Now, if we bring this closer to home in South Africa, despite South Africa being one of the most developed countries on the continent, the problem is no different. 20% of South Africans are either underbanked or unbanked entirely. So I'm sure the term unbanked is one that's quite familiar to everybody, and that refers to somebody who has got no bank account or no relationship with a banking institution at all. Underbanked, on the other hand, is a term that we use to refer to people who have got a bank account, but not out of their own choice, and it's rather a requirement of their employer to receive their salary or their wage. And typically, the behavior that we see is that the money or the salary or wage will go into the account, and straight away, it is withdrawn into cash. This cash then contributes to the informal economy in South Africa, which is valued at 213 billion euros. And this is a fairly conservative view or estimate. Cash in this world is critical means to living and the exchange of goods and services, all despite the risks and challenges of cash. Now, in complete stark contrast to this very cash-heavy, cash is king world, we have technology. Technology is becoming far more accessible in South Africa, particularly due to the introduction of entry-level and affordable smartphones. And that has resulted in a 70% smartphone penetration in South Africa. And so Absa found themselves in the middle of these 2 very different worlds, determined to bring them together and bank the unbanked or underbanked. So we adopted a design thinking approach where we consulted our end user at regular intervals. This reduced the risk in product design, and it also ensured that the product perfectly met the needs of our customer. We did a range of testing. In the early days, it was exploratory research and proposition testing. We moved on to service and experience prototyping and testing. And then sort of more towards the end, we did user testing to refine our UX. And in the end, it added up to 100 hours spent with our customers. So I want to give you a little insight into who we spoke to in those 100 hours. So I'd like you to meet Dineo. Dineo is a single mother who lives in the Johannesburg township of Orange Farm. But sadly, like 33.5% of South Africans, Dineo is unemployed despite her efforts to find work. Dineo receives a monthly grant from the government that is meant to cover her living expenses for her and her daughter. But this grant is less than 50 euros or 860 Rand. It's not even enough to cover her rent of the small shack you see beside her. It also cost Dineo €4 or 80 Rand in transport fees to collect her grant from the nearest government office. Dineo is determined to make ends meet and provide for her and her daughter. So she wakes up at 3 a.m. every day to bake a local kind of donut called vetkoek. At 4 a.m., she walks a few miles to the local taxi rank to sell her vetkoek to the workers passing through on their way to work. She sells the vetkoek for less than €1 and receives payments for them in cash only. On a good morning, Dineo can make up to €20 or 400 Rand, and in a month, up to €250, which she adds to the 50 Rand grant she has received from the government. But a sad reality for Dineo is not once, but twice, Dineo has been robbed on her way home from work. The money that she does get home, she keeps her in a box under her bed in hopes that an intruder wouldn't find it. Most of what Dineo earns is spent on rent, food, and transport for her and her daughter. And the small amount that she does have left over is left for one of life's simple pleasures, data. WhatsApp brings Dineo a lot of joy. It helps her stay connected to friends and family who aren't close by. Dineo spends €7 per month on a data bundle for WhatsApp. But sadly, saving her hard-earned money, receiving payments for her small informal business, and buying airtime and data are all simple things a bank offers. However, this is not even a consideration for Dineo, and she feels that traditional banks just don't meet her needs. One of the main reasons has to do with trust and security, as well as also feeling that fees are complicated and perceived to be very expensive. So we asked ourselves, how might we empower Dineo with accessible, affordable, and safe banking services, given that cash is pervasive and trust in banks and digital banking is low? And so ChatWallet was born. ChatWallet is a digital wallet or store of value that gives customers a basic banking account with basic services, allowing them to store money safely, make payments to friends and family, buy airtime, data, electricity, and so on, and receive payments, all from the convenience of their phone. So as I mentioned, those 100 hours that we spent testing, some of the early testing that we did was research to validate existing assumptions we had around cash and banking pain points. And really what we wanted to do was establish the level of customer desirability towards an alternative of cash, if any. And from this, we got many rich customer insights, and this formed the basis of our value proposition, which we later went on to test. So we can summarize it as 4 key insights. Our first insight tells us that customers have low trust in banks and digital banking. So meet customers on a platform that they do trust, which in South Africa is WhatsApp. The ChatWallet is built entirely in WhatsApp, so a channel that is familiar, or these customers are familiar with, they use every day to chat to their friends and their family. So allowing customers to chat and bank on the go with WhatsApp. The second insight told us the customers need security for their hard-earned money. And I think safety of funds is heightened for this market, like we heard from Dineo's story. So we have protected the wallet in onboarding with our identification and verification method being facial biometrics. And then for day-to-day use, we secure the wallet with a unique PIN. Then our third insight told us that customers are extremely price sensitive. So ChatWallet gives customers a no-frills, easy to understand pricing. And the proof really is in the no monthly fees and pay as you transact model, and payments for very affordable prices. And then finally, customers need great and efficient service experiences. So right from the digital paperless onboarding to ChatWallet, which can be completed in under 2 minutes, through to payments with natural language understanding that can be done in 30 seconds, ChatWallet offers customers a seamless experience. So we're going to jump into a video. I'm hoping the sound works. Brian, maybe you can just give me a thumbs up. Just turn the volume down because it was very loud earlier.
Enter Absa ChatWallet, an innovative mobile money solution built entirely on WhatsApp, one that meets customers where they are. with no monthly fees, free deposits, free airtime or data purchases, and payments for just R1. Now Dineo can open a wallet account in 59 seconds and bank anytime on the app she trusts and uses every day. ChatWallet integrates Absa's award-winning biometric security into WhatsApp and allows users to create a secure PIN for peace of mind. It revolutionizes banking with artificial intelligence, making tasks that Dineo once found complicated as easy as chatting to a friend.
So, getting to this award-winning solution was no easy task. We faced several complexities from a business, technical, and human perspective. Over the next couple of slides, I will get into what these complexities meant and how we navigated them, and hopefully share a couple of methods that we found really useful and the role that design played in navigating those complexities. So,
Hannah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You need to share your deck again, I think. Can folks see your deck?
It's all good. Brian, you might have to switch because there is a meeting button and a screen button on the very top. If you are on
Got
the
it. Thank you.
Okay, so starting off with business complexity. So the nature of ChatWallet required a twofold build. So we were not only building a new product, being the wallet, but we were also building a new channel, being WhatsApp. So as a bank, we really took on a very ambitious challenge. And to get this over the line, we required, many different parties to be involved. And so it was a lot of effort to coordinate this, and we had to meet objectives and conditions from many different stakeholder groups, ranging from product owners, legal counsel, compliance managers, you name it, they were there. So yeah, it was quite a thing. When I was reflecting in preparing for this talk and thinking about, what helped us navigate that complexity, I think two things came to mind for me. And while they're quite simple and straightforward, I think they were extremely powerful. So the first thing, what we termed in the program, is Solution Hub. So at inception of the project, we set up a weekly forum of 2 hours where we invited representation from all of these different stakeholder groups. And in this forum, we would solve some of the more complex challenges in the program. So for example, one of them was you have a customer who has a different mobile number and different number to their mobile device and that of WhatsApp. So how do we solve for that? And I think this was really powerful because it created a lot of efficiency in solving problems, but it also ensured transparency across, the program, and everybody was always included in all of the decisions. I think from a design role, what we did there that was very powerful was we often needed to visualize the problem to the group. So this was often through customer journeys, process maps, customer insights, or sometimes just scribing on Miro, as we often have to do as designers. Then the second thing that we did to navigate the kind of complexity of having so many stakeholders was right from the start, we created a prototype hub in Figma. So this was a central location where all of our journeys were stored at all times. So anybody from the stakeholder group had access to the updated journeys at any given time. And I think that this was really fantastic because it removed a lot of delays. Trying to coordinate all those people into one room, it's near impossible. So it saved the team a lot of time from doing multiple walkthroughs, and we could really just focus on the more complex problems at hand. Then if we move on to technical complexity. So of course, to make this possible, we needed to integrate with Meta. So we did this integration using a third party. Now, integrating, to a third party for a corporate of Absa's size is a decision we don't take lightly. It's not something, that we just do quickly or do on a whim. And the simple reason for this is that it removes a lot of end-to-end control from Absa, and more so in an environment where you're not just dealing with back-end systems, but you're also dealing with a front-end system that your customers are interacting with. And so this introduces, a new set of risks. And then secondly, like I've mentioned, typically at Absa, we'll either design a new product or a new function or feature, or we'll design a new challenge. don't often find us doing that at the same time. And so that, building something one and the same together presented a lot of complexity. Last week, I met with one of our lead architects just to sort of pick his brain on the more technical side of things, and see, how did he think that we navigated this complexity? And he shared two interesting points with me. And we were really fortunate, I think, to have this at Absa. So the first was around kind of the technical leadership that we had within the program. They were very present right from the start of the program right through to the end. So it wasn't just present, sort of a once-off discussion, let's get this going. They were there to guide and advise right through the execution journey. And I think that, really helped us. And then secondly, there was a big mindset shift that was needed to find a balance between, this new innovation, but also the risk management that it could introduce. And that, happened successfully through a very focused and collaborative effort. So next, we'll move on to probably my favorite part of the presentation, and this is the human complexity. And I'll spend quite a bit of time here, just because I think there's a lot that you can take away from this. So designing for WhatsApp and conversational banking was a totally new territory for the team. We were entering a space of probabilistic design. So this is an approach to design that incorporates uncertainty and variability. So basically, what it very simply means is you're designing for the unknown. And it's really important to incorporate this to create experiences that are aligned to customers' behaviors, and it increases usability and satisfaction. So what does this probabilistic design mean? Now, it means a lot of things practically, but for today, I'll just highlight sort of two of the things that I think really stood out for us and I think are good to illustrate for the purpose of this discussion. So what it does is it increases your possibility of errors. And this really comes down to having very little control over how your customer responds. So if you look over at the left-hand screen, this is our Absa banking app. We have total control over how our customer interacts with it, to the point that we only let them use the sort of numbers keyboard. They can't put in cents or anything like that. But if you look at your WhatsApp space, it's a very different world. Your customer could enter quite literally anything. They could send you a GIF, for all we care. So you're operating in a world where there's a lot of unknowns and a lot more room for error. And you'll see in the video that's looping now, it's not, there's no inline validation where you can give them an immediate response. It's a bit of a ping pong game. Customer tells you a thing, you validate it, you send them back. And that's a lot of time wasted for the customer, this back and forth. So, you want them to give you the right answer as soon as possible. So how did we navigate this area of, designing for the unknown? So one of the first things that came to mind for me was the failure modes and effects analysis. Now, this is an awesome tool that we have learned from our process engineers who we work side by side with in the program. And so they often on programs will complete such an analysis and share the insights with us. And what this really ensured is that the customer journey always, we could identify the points of failure, and then in the journey always ensure that the customer could get back on track and solve for themselves. So it identifies, failure points and so on. Then the second way that we navigated this sort of designing for the unknown is through guiding and reassuring our customers. So give your customer upfront guidance. Tell them exactly what you need from them. So type in an amount between 30 and 2,000. This avoids the ping pong that I spoke to, and it really just gets your customer to give you what you need. And then secondly, it's really important to reassure the customer. In a world where you can't navigate like you would on mobile or web, and you can click around and it's sort of quite easy, WhatsApp is very linear. So it's important that your customer has always got a way out. Then thirdly, it is very important to listen to your customer and analyze in this world of unknown. So analyze the data of how your customers are interacting with your product. and identify, patterns and so on. So what you can see here is just a snapshot of some of kind of like those inputs that we analyze of the user, and we ensure that our designs meet that. And a good example of that, and quite a kind of local example, is in South Africa, people often say "ja" instead of "yes," something my mother often shouts at me about. But people will respond and say "ja." And so it's important that in the chat, "ja" is recognized as yes or a confirmation. So we had to ensure that, a thumbs up or a tick or "ja" was within the model, and, it was understood. Then the fourth thing is test, and test some more, and on different devices and different device settings. So what you see on the left here is what we thought was our perfect Figma design. What you see on the right-hand side is a snapshot of production where Sivan, who's our senior design director, she was testing with her elderly father. Now, he's got his settings, his font settings, quite severely increased compared to the default settings. So that's what his experience looks like. So it taught us that, that first sentence is crucial in getting right. So yeah, test, and test some more. And then the fifth and final way that we recommend, you do in navigating this world of unknown and probabilistic design is service strategy. So as much as conversational banking is new for us, it's also new for our customers. So having a solid service strategy in place is really, really important. And we designed this in collaboration with our colleagues in the voice estates and the branch estates. And we came up with 3 important objectives. So the first one was it needs to be low cost, both for the bank, so from a cost optimization point of view, but also for the customer. If you recall, Dineo, WhatsApp data and voice data is very precious to her. So make it cheap to be able to service. Then focusing on in-channel servicing through WhatsApp to minimize breakout, and then of course capitalize, on any opportunities to educate customers and as often as possible. And what this resulted in was a 3-tiered approach to servicing. So the first tier speaks to in-channel servicing. So like I said, providing your customer with as much information and guidance to self-service and get themselves back on track within WhatsApp. Tier 2 then moves into voice, and what's really important to note here is that this was done by design. So Tier 2 really looks at scenarios that should involve human interaction, where it's better for there to be a human involved. So a good example of that is fraud. You don't want the customer sort of trying to self-service and figure out their fraud case. You need a fraud specialist to be on the line. And then the third tier focuses on branch. While not recommended, one does have to, be realistic and make consideration for those walk-in customers. So it took us just over 2 years to land ChatWallet in the market. I think a lot of what you see here on this map or timeline I have already covered, but there are 2 key things I'd like to just point out that really helped us. So the first was our very first prototype that we developed. It was very powerful for a number of reasons. The first one was it got us buy-in at a senior leadership level and support from the get-go. It also allowed us to test early on and get, really tangible and rich insights. And then third and finally, and I think most importantly, it remained our North Star. Often in these big projects, it's very easy to get sort of caught up in the requirements and complicate the journeys. And our North Star often, pulled us back and reminded us, this is what we're trying to achieve. This is our vision. So our first prototype was really powerful. The second milestone that I want to share is our pilot, or what we refer to as Friends of the Program. So we ran a closed pilot, a production pilot, before going to the market. And the aim was to give colleagues the opportunity to give us feedback in sort of the real world environment. So we ran it with 100 colleagues, quite a few of them are on the line today, product owners, developers, change managers, you name it. And we ran it for a couple of months. You're probably wondering, why would you do a pilot for so long? Why can't you just, do pre-production or UAT testing? And I think for me, there's probably 3 things that stand out. It allows you to test end-to-end servicing. So that servicing model I just spoke to, you can test that in a fully productional environment. It also allowed us to test the ecosystem end to end. So money into the wallet, money out of the wallet at the ATM, and so on. And then thirdly, I think user testing, if you're lucky, you get a couple of hours with somebody. But I think when you are, giving somebody a couple of months, they really get to integrate the product into their lives and see how it works and give you solid feedback. So yeah, our friends of the program was fantastic. So what did all of this mean? And what is the impact that we've seen? So ChatWallet has increased Absa's monthly digital sales by an average of 144%. To date, we have opened 109,000 ChatWallets, and we have nearly reached the million mark on the number of transactions. We are also seeing a huge increase in the engagement of sessions on the WhatsApp. So you'll see the 2.2 scratched out there. When we submitted the case study a couple of months ago, we only had 2.2 million sessions. And today, when we looked at the numbers literally a couple of hours ago, it's gone up to 8 million. And that just shows the customers, are increasingly engaging with the product. And while these numbers are fantastic and we're very proud of them, we need to remember the impact that it's having on the lives of people like Dineo. So at the top, we can see life before ChatWallet. It was time consuming, it involved extra costs and many safety risks for Dineo to do a simple task of buying something like airtime. But ChatWallet has changed things for Dineo. She's now significantly reduced the time in needing to buy airtime, so she can spend more time with her daughter, more time on her business, and it has made her life a whole lot easier. To end off, I just want to share a tiny snippet of a social media post that we saw about somebody who said, "I've already tried it. What a wonderful addition to the banking world. I was teaching my 70-year-old mum an alternative way to banking." And that is the journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you very much indeed. I have to say, what a beautiful presentation deck and what wonderful storytelling. Yes, so we should all learn from you in that regard. I would also say thank you so much for sharing those key takeaways. They're all incredibly practical approaches for all of us here to take to our own service design practices, which is exactly the goal of a meetup like this. So thank you. We have folks about another 15-20 minutes, so we have the floor open to chat with Hannah about the project. I do have one question from Jeff. Real quick, Jeff was curious as to whether your design team was a full internal in-house design team, or whether you also worked with external partners and how that worked.
Sure. So Absa is very fortunate. We have a design team made up of 142 designers, from service designers, UX designers, UI designers, process engineers, like I mentioned. So everything was done in-house with our own team's expertise. So all done in-house.
Excellent. That's great. That is unusual these days. It certainly makes for a lot easier implementation of that amazing strategy that you put together. One of the things that struck, I know, myself and the team who reviewed your project was the extent of the research that you did, particularly. And I know that you went through iteration after iteration. And the other piece I felt was, the insights that you articulated were so clear and so actionable. Was there any one particular insight or iteration insight that really led you to the ChatWallet idea? Was there one that stood out?
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, we spent 100 hours doing the testing, and I think it really paid off. In the end, we've landed something that really meets the needs of our users. I think that the initial slide that I showed, sort of with the value proposition and those 4 key insights around the trust, the safety and security, and the pricing, are probably the 4 most impactful insights that we got. And that was done in I think our first batch of testing, where we did 42 1-hour customer sort of interviews. It was done in the field. It was in COVID times, so there were a bit of challenges around that, but it was done to really understand, is there an alternative to cash that customers are interested in? What are the current pain points around cash? And I think those insights, what's been really powerful in how much or how we sort of clearly define them, is that it's very easy to then refer back to them throughout the journey to say, we've iterated, but are we still meeting those 4 very clear insights that we know our customers need, at an absolute minimum? And I think even to this day, when we were working with our marketing teams, I was recently doing an exercise with the marketing team, and I referred back to those insights and those kind of customer promises, to ensure, that's what we're communicating to customers, that's what the product is doing. So I think you're right, really making them very clear is very powerful. Even 2 years down the line, we still refer back to them.
Well, I imagine, I'm getting some questions from folks about how you're measuring it and about the impact that you're having, which is great considering that was our theme in Helsinki. It's clear that, you've been capturing the financial numbers, the quantitative numbers to monitor it. Are there any, and I know that it looks like you've also gone back to Dineo and the other Dineos and got a sense of how they're responding to it. Are there other KPIs or any other KPIs that you're monitoring, to make sure that you're making progress, that things are improving, or are these the numbers that are sufficient for you to keep track of this?
Yeah, so we definitely are looking at a lot of other numbers. One of the key things that we track, so Absa has for a number of years offered a product called Cash Send, which allows you or customers to send money to people without bank accounts, and then they withdraw that money at an ATM. Now, like I mentioned in the talk, there are a lot of problems with cash. So one of our key entry points to ChatWallet is that somebody who receives the cash send is encouraged to get the ChatWallet to rather store that money than withdraw it at the ATM. So one of the key things we track is, the conversion of the cash send into the ChatWallet. We, of course, will look at transacting volumes and values. So what does the average payment look like? Is that on the increase? Are people keeping money in the wallet? And so on and so forth. And then we also look at impact on our voice estate and our branch to see, what numbers are we driving into those spaces. So yeah, there's a range of different things that we look at. I think in time, what will also be very interesting for us to track is the whole thinking around the ChatWallet is that it's a stepping stone into the broader banking ecosystem. So, our hope is that one day these people move on from a ChatWallet and they get, a transactional account. Maybe they get a short-term loan. Maybe they take out some insurance. So it'll be interesting to track kind of that journey and how it was an entry point into the banking ecosystem. Yeah. But we certainly aren't, at that point yet. It's far too soon.
Right. It's the thing about service design projects is that they never end the day you launch. Obviously, it's a continuous project. And Thomas has asked, what maybe has not worked as well as expected, and what are you doing to keep track of that as you move forward? How are you monitoring the success of your design efforts?
Sure. So I think a big learning for us was around sort of earlier engagement with our voice colleagues and our colleagues in the branch. I think, as we start to look at our MVP2s, we certainly will involve those colleagues on the journey a lot earlier, because at the end of the day, they are our ambassadors for the product, goodness me, I've been talking too long. And if anybody, comes in with a query or they want sort of in-person support, we rely on these people to support them, to help them through the journey. So I think there has, been some pain in the voice estate, and I think it would have been good, or a lesson we've learned, is to include those colleagues earlier on in the journey, and really involve them.
Yeah, it's funny. That was going to be one of my questions, because, one of the things, Birgit, you've published research with Dr. Tina Weisser, and you've always said implementation begins on day one. And certainly that's often through, that co-creative collaborative process being installed right from the beginning. One of the things I thought you did, though, one of the tips that you provided was the solution hub. How soon in the process did you bring the solution hub on board? Was that from the beginning or was that later?
No, so the solution hub was brought on right from the beginning.
Okay.
Yeah. So we did that right from the start, and we had colleagues from your payments architects, your core banking architects, to devs, to designers, to compliance colleagues, fin crime colleagues, all sort of bringing their bits and pieces and experiences to solve for this. And I think I'm thinking back now to the initial question around in-house. I think what was fantastic about that is that, our team is quite mature. Everybody who's on the team has been with Absa for, 5+ years. And so we could pull from a lot of different experiences from many other projects that we've worked on in Absa. So we're not pulling from, that brand and this brand and that company. We're pulling from, real user testing that we did somewhere else, that we learned that thing, or, this didn't go that well. And I think that it's a huge advantage to be able to solve these things collaboratively and in-house.
Right. And I think the thread of the answer to the next question, I think, is maybe one that you've already given. I mean, I observed and I think you mentioned it in your story, that you said it took 2 years and a significant investment to build this. And so, many design teams, especially those of us who are online here today who work in agencies, for instance, consultancies, often when we hand off at what we think is a great strategy for a product or service, often have a hard time convincing or seeing it all the way through implementation. Do you feel like there were any things that, the business teams are not quite prepared to sort of go ahead? I know you mentioned prototypes has been one way, but how was the business team brought on board, and how did you build that confidence in the business case?
Yeah. So I think we were lucky in that we started the journey with the business together. So we kind of walked the journey together. But yes, like I said, that prototype was really powerful. I think from a business case point of view, the view, sort of how we got the buy-in, was a volume over value strategy. So get the volume in for kind of the short term, and then we start to see over the next 5 years the value. So like I spoke about the stepping stone, get them in, and then in years to come, we can start to introduce them to other products, your loans and your funeral covers and so on. And I think that kind of strategy and vision around it being a stepping stone was very, very powerful for the business case. Yeah.
And I see in our chat, Zenta has just mentioned that the team had another session of the Solution Hub today.
Yep.
As
it
you
lives on.
develop the product further.
It lives on. Yeah.
So others in the room, we've been getting a couple of questions, a couple of comments, but folks, jump in with either in the chat or raise your hand in the room if you've got something you'd like to share. Or Birgit.
Maybe I can pick something that is already in the chat. So what's next for your team and for ChatWallet?
Sure. So we're looking at a number of different things at the moment. There's always long lists, long backlogs, but a couple of things that come to mind is so currently we have quite a confined criteria of who can get the ChatWallet. And that just allowed us to, launch the MVP. But our big focus at the moment is being sort of a lot more inclusive. So allowing sort of foreigners to be able to get the wallet, younger sort of customers under the age of 18, customers who might not necessarily meet all of our criteria should still be able to get access to sort of a version of the product. So how do we make the product more inclusive? We're also looking at ways of alternative methods to sell the product. So, commercialization and that sort of thing. Obviously can't say too much, but that's what we are focusing on at the moment. And yeah, it's a very exciting time. Like Zenta said, they had the Solution Hub today. had a lot of FOMO. I was kind of doing a dry run of my talk, but I could see the chat going off and I was like, I want to be there. So yeah, it lives on.
Good. Folks in the room, anybody like to jump in? I feel like it's good to be able to monitor online, but I'd love to hear some voices in the room too. But don't be shy. Okay. We're quiet. Birgit, any further thoughts for yourself on the project?
Well, I had a question about more like benchmarking. You mentioned that you talked to people on the conference from Brazil and other countries who have similar problems. I assume that there is also solutions out there. And I was wondering what kind of benchmark you did and how your solution now relates to already existing financial inclusive solutions on the market.
Yeah, so it was very interesting. Just speaking about the delegates that I connected with at the conference, I think the product that came out of Brazil is called Maggie, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe someone on the line who was there, maybe Bassi, you remember, but it's been a bit of a whirlwind, I think, for everybody since being back for the conference. So I haven't really done an in-depth look into what they're doing, but very keen to have a look. But looking at sort of the market back home, one of our main competitors was a service offered by one of the other banks, which is termed e-wallet. So a big competitor in the South African, a very, very well-established and well-known market. I think for us, the key differentiator to the e-wallet is definitely when it comes down to the user experience. So the e-wallet is very much done on the USSD, so the star, dial this, the telephone banking. So the customer experience is, not at all where it should be in 2024. So us offering, the product on WhatsApp with, the backing of the, so I can see someone laughing at the FNB wallet. With the backing of the natural language understanding, I think, from a usability point of view, you cannot even compare the two. The fact that a customer can simply type into WhatsApp, buy Brian 50 Rand, and it says, are you sure you want to buy Brian 50 Rand Vodacom data? Yes, done. Thanks for coming. So I think that really, really has set us apart. I think our pricing model, we did extensive work with our pricing strategy team, looking at, what kind of model works best for those markets. And we landed up on the pay-as-you-transact model, which was definitely favored within the market and allowed us to come out as, sort of the cheapest wallet in the market. So yeah, a lot of work done kind of looking at what's out there and what's best for the customer.
That's fantastic. I mean, the last observation I will make is around, I think, the prototyping that you did throughout this project. And you did mention that it had a huge influence on the business teams in terms of getting support for it ongoing. I think as a practical takeaway, how you iterated the fidelity of the prototypes as you iterated on the research, increasing that fidelity, and not just like relying simply on mobile app interface testing, but also service experience testing. I'd never heard of the term Spaza shop before until I read your case study, and that you set up this service experience. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so for those who were at the conference, they would have heard about that. We unfortunately ran out of time to talk about that today, but Bassi, who I believe is online today, was our lead service designer on the project. And so a Spaza shop in South Africa is a local small convenience store that you will find, around the corner, and it sells, cool drinks and chips and all sorts of things and airtime and you name it, you can find it there. And what we looked at is, could a Spaza shop be an opportunity to sell the wallet to, customers? So we at the time were looking at how sort of the commercialization of the wallet. And we unpacked a very interesting insight in that testing around trust, and that our customers don't necessarily always trust the owners of these spaza shops, and so it wouldn't be a successful channel for us to sell these wallets. I'm giving the summarized version here because I know we're like 2 minutes to go. But really the impact and the story to tell there is that it saved the business a huge investment. We were looking at partnering with a third party that would provide the service at the spaza shops. And the business was, very close to going ahead with it. And this amazing research that Bassi did and the insights that she uncovered, it saved the business a lot of money, and it encouraged us to look at other channels to sell the wallet, where there was more trust and we had a better chance of selling them. Yeah.
That's great. And I think Thomas Brandenburg, if you're still online, that answers your question from earlier about what did not work as well as expected. But hey, you're not going to find that out without doing exactly what you did. So excellent. Like you said, we've only got 1 minute. The last thing, and I know, Birgit, you mentioned it already, the full case study will be published on the SDN website. I just put the URL in there. So that'll probably be published in the next few weeks, as well as all of the finalists from the awards this summer. 15 or 16 case studies will be published over the next few months. So come back, members, come back. Hey, if you're a guest here today and you're not a member, consider joining. What an amazing community we have. And so thank you. I say my last words, Birgit, you can jump in. Last words. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming today. Great to see you.
Thanks to everybody. We will be releasing some of the replay videos from the conference during the next weeks. So keep your eyes open. And you can, of course, also get the access to all replay videos in case you missed the conference for a small contribution. Yeah, it was lovely seeing you. And we'll be in touch. Connect on LinkedIn, please.
Yes, indeed. Have a good rest of your day, wherever you are.